Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. So you probably heard Wednesday is a Veterans Day. Veterans Day is one of my favorite holidays. Not that I'm a veteran. I'm not. And it's been a while since I told the story, so I think I will. I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school in 1969. And the government came up with this thing called a draft lottery for selective service. And so rather than just taking everybody that was a certain age, they changed it and turned it into gambling. And in 1969, the first year, I would always, for the next few years after that, I would always look and see what my number was for my birthday. September 2nd in 1969 came in at 161. That was the number in the lottery. So, I probably wouldn't, if I had been 19 at the time, wouldn't have been drafted. The next year, it was 171 in the draft lottery, my birthday. The year after that, it was 90. And then when I turned 19, you get the right number, it was 17. I did not laugh. I was not happy. Of course, I began by kind of freezing and not doing anything. I was prone to such a lack of action at that time in my life, and so I didn't do anything. And then finally I realized that I was going to get drafted. And before I got my draft notice, I better do something. So I went down to the Air Force recruiting station in Coral Gables, Florida. And they were glad to see me, and they welcomed me, and I came in and I took their battery of tests. We did all the physical tests and the mental tests and everything to see I had obviously graduated from high school, and I was going to junior college at the time. Nobody got a college deferment during that time. And so I went through all of that, and afterwards they interviewed me to tell me how I did on the tests. On the physical test, they said I did pretty good, except that I could not fly their jets because I had a certain degree of color blindness. So they obviously don't let anybody touch a jet as far as flying it. And then they said on the written tests that I actually did really well, that I could go into military intelligence, I would qualify for officers training. There were lots of opportunities, but I could not touch their equipment because I failed the mechanical part of the test. This is why I love Rick Sherrill so much, because he has a mechanical mind and I don't. So that was my experience. What happened within a couple weeks of that time was Secretary of Defense Melvin Laird announced that they were discontinuing the draft. And I just sat on my bed and sobbed, because I was sure that if I was going to go to Vietnam, I was going to die. And I didn't go. But I saw people go, and I saw how it changed their lives. And I've seen people since with other wars other than Vietnam. And I know that nobody gets through it unscathed. That when we put our lives on the line for something, that it changes us. So I have this deep appreciation for veterans and for their gift to me and to all of us. And that's always really important to me. So today I want to talk about this idea of the warrior. Now there's a difference between a warrior and a warmonger. Warmongers want war. They want aggression. They want the things that, I think the nice word for it is to be hawkish. They're very interested in the power of war. But the idea of warrior comes really as a very fundamental idea out of Jungian psychology, and I'm sure even before that, as a primal archetype, especially of men. And this archetype is one of four. There's four primary in the masculine. And I'm going to start with the masculine here. They are the warrior, the lover, the magician, and the king, and each has a different aspect. Now, what you learn when you study this is that these 4 archetypes, everyone has a primary one. They have the main one that seems to lead their life. So there are those who are warriors because the warrior archetype is the predominant one. That is not true for me, but it is for a number of people, for quite a number of people. And it's an important one. And if it isn't your primary archetype, it's still there. And it's still worth developing. It's like none of us get out of this. Oh, and by the way, if you're not a man and you're going, why are we just talking about guys? There's an equivalent in the feminine, and it's called the Amazon. Don't mess with the Amazon. Yeah, you get lost in those eyes. I won't leave this one up very long. But I'm going to leave it there long enough just to talk about this for a moment, in that this idea of the warrior can be underdeveloped or immature, and what we call that is the bully. But the mature warrior is a disciplined being, is someone who knows how to defend, knows how to accomplish, but doesn't use their skill in a way that is harmful or hurtful to others. They're not a bully. A bully is that underdeveloped idea of what a warrior is. A warrior is actually, I think of the 4 archetypes, is the most disciplined because they know that their actions have meaning and how they use their life has meaning. So there are certain things that come forward in this archetype. So this idea of awakening our spiritual warrior is not anything about war, but it is about having the discipline of the great warriors of history. You know, the ones that could see clearly and could know how to move forward and make a difference in the world that benefited people more than injured anybody. Of course, warriors, there's this idea of clashes of warriors, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about the sense of being that warrior about your own life, about how you are in the world. And that's what this brings. Now, I was introduced to this by a guy named Dr. Robert Moore, who was in the same mythopoetic men's work that I was in a couple of decades ago. And so we had an opportunity to work together. And he wrote a book that had the names King, Warrior, Magician, Lover as its title. And this is what Robert Moore said about the warrior. The warrior seeks absolute control over his mind and his attitudes. This means that he has the potential for great courage and an unconquerable spirit. He takes responsibility for his actions and is fearless and self-disciplined. Now, if you're like me, you wouldn't find anything on that list of characteristics that would seem inappropriate. Wow, how wonderful to live a life where you're clear about who you are. Now, if your primary archetype is the lover, that's not that important to you. You know, it's okay to be a little undisciplined as long as your heart's wide open. You know, if you're a magician, then what's interesting is that you have all the information that you need. And the healthy magician uses that information to help and support other people, but that's not true for all magicians. Some are more immature, and they use information as power. So, and then there's the king. And the king in the feminine could be called the sovereign, which is kind of a non-sexual type of way of looking at that. It's the one who kind of sees over what's going on and keeps an eye on things and offers blessings and does the good work of the sovereign, but that doesn't make him the smartest one by any means. But the warrior really is this high level of discipline, this high level of self-awareness. Many warriors never are aggressive toward another person. They're well trained. They've spent years training themselves to be able to use a martial art or other types and forms of tools that are used by warriors, but they don't use them. They simply know that they have them. My first spiritual teacher was much that way. In fact, he's the one that talked to me about always having that Bengal tiger by my side. And not that I would ever have my tiger attack anybody, but if someone's attacking me, I'm to know that I can balance this immediately and take control immediately with this Bengal tiger that walks by my side. But I don't do it. I don't need to. I already know it. And that's the idea of the warrior. That's what we get from the warrior. So what I've discovered is that we can improve the quality of our inner warrior or our inner Amazon. We can develop that within us. And there's some pretty easy traits that exist in this. So I want to share some of them with you. And we're talking now about being the spiritual warrior, the spiritual journeyer who is on this quest to have a meaningful life. And here are some ideas that I would like to share with you about this. 7 traits of the spiritual warrior. The first one is spiritual warriors are driven by their purpose. They have an intention, a mission, a direction for their lives that they hold true to. They don't do their purpose 6 days a week and then do whatever they want 7 days a week. Everything they do aligns with why they're here, which means they have to spend the time to figure out why they're here. And once they do, they are in service to that. They think that their purpose is greater than their life. They're willing to give their life for the purpose of doing what they've come to do and being who they've come to be. Whatever it takes, whatever it takes. That's the first trait of the spiritual warrior. The second trait, spiritual warriors are vigilant in upholding the principles and values that guide and define their lives. They're principled people. They don't figure it out in the moment. They know who they are. They know what's important. They know the standards that they live by. And they stay in those parameters. They don't venture out because they've figured out that when you venture outside of the values that you hold as sacred and you do other things, that you're jeopardizing your entire life, maybe the lives of others. So this is a place of great discipline to have that holding of principles and values in a way that it is so intimately known within the warrior that they never step out of it. One of the old stories that I once heard was of a warrior that had a teacher, a master, a sensei, and an assassin came and killed his teacher. And of course, it was the obligation of that warrior to go and balance the scales, to find the assassin and to kill him. This was at a time when these things happened. So he went off to find him, and he did. He found him. And as he came upon this one that had done this, the assassin was clever. He stood up and he spit in the warrior's face. And the warrior looked at him and turned around and walked away, because he could not do what he had come to do in anger. So he had to leave and come again. And I thought, God, that's just amazing. Obviously, his task was to do this for his great teacher. But he couldn't under those circumstances, because then it would be about him. And that's not acceptable. So I know that's a crude story, but it speaks to this idea of being principled in how we live our lives. Spiritual warriors seek to keep their hearts and minds in balance. They do not let their thinking overwhelm their feeling, nor do they let their feeling overwhelm their thinking. They keep a balance. And by doing that, they're obviously more clear of who they are and what is important in their lives. It's certainly not that a warrior can't express and experience love. They can. They must. But they also must be clear about what their intention is and their purpose. So there's a lot to balance in being a spiritual warrior. Spiritual warriors are always on a quest for greater self-awareness. The work of the warrior is not about what's happening out there. It's about what's happening inside. And nothing can be more important than our work for ourselves. How can we bring our gifts to the world, to others, in a good way if we're not willing to look at who we are and how we live in the world? So the idea of being self-aware is that great quest for the spiritual warrior. Whoops, moving too fast here. There we go. Spiritual warriors rely on their intuition. I thought that was an interesting idea, that spiritual warriors would use something that can't be seen or heard or tasted or smelled or anything of the sort. Something intuitive, something intrinsic within. And of all of these four primary archetypes, it seems the work of intuition comes to the warrior. It's important to be able to think beyond the logic of things, to be able to receive information, even though you may not know where it's come from, especially if you don't know where it's come from, and to listen and use your intuition. So the warriors, spiritual warriors, do that. Spiritual warriors take total responsibility for their actions. I think that story I shared before certainly speaks to that. That it's not just what you do, it's not just how you do it. It's who are you that's doing it. And when you're clear about that, then you get the result that you want. I have found in my life when I'm not clear about what I'm doing and I take some action, some impulsive or reactive stance on something, I tend to regret it later. That's not what the warrior does. The seasoned, mature warrior knows that what he says or what she says or does in any way has an impact and must be held at the point of being responsible, at the point of each of us. And that's a powerful thing. It holds you accountable when you do that. Who else is going to hold you accountable? You can have other people dislike you and judge you and blame you and do all kinds of things, but that doesn't make you accountable. That really comes to you at the point of view. And then the final one. Spiritual warriors give for the sake of giving, meaning that every warrior is here to be in service. Now, military service people obviously have a piece of that, an important piece of that. But every one of us is a spiritual warrior. Every one of us is bringing something to the world. And if we bring it to get something, we deny the beauty of the gift. And that doesn't mean that we're giving and not getting. I don't believe in altruism. I believe that we always get. But if we set the getting as the reason to give, we're missing the point. The point of giving is to give. And the warrior has that figured out. So when the spiritual warrior stops in the middle of a snowstorm and helps someone change their tire, they're not looking for money. They're not looking for praise. They see someone in need and they stop and they help. And there's thousands of ways that we do this in our lives. All of them are valuable. All of them are important. And all of them bring value to our life as well as to the ones that we serve. So those are the traits of the warrior. I believe that the warrior is a powerful thing. And I want to honor those warriors who are with us today that served in the military. So if you are a veteran, even if you're in active service, I don't know of anyone that is, but if someone is, I would like to ask you please to put your mask back on and to come stand here at the front of the room facing everyone. So I hold in my hand a feather of the great eagle, the one that flies the highest and sees the farthest of all sentient beings. This one has come to bless these warriors before you. This one has come to remember the truth of these and their sacrifice and their gifts and the work that they continue to do in this world. Thank you, brother, for your service, for your courage, and for your commitment to a better world. Thank you, brother, for your service, for your big heart, and for all the good that you bring to the world. Thank you, Colonel, for the bright light that you are in my life and in all life, for all the lives that you've touched and made better. For this, I'm very grateful. Thank you, beloved one, for the good work that you've done to serve the people of this country and of the world. Blessings on you. Thank you, beloved one, for who you are, for your service, for your love, and for your light. Oh, brother, thank you for all the lives that you've touched in such a good way, for the way you've made this world a better place. Thank you, brother, for your service, for your big heart, and for all the good that you do in this world.
Thank you.
Yes. And thank you, my brother. Yes, right there. For your good heart, your strong mind, and for all whose lives you have touched in a good way. Bless you. Yeah. So stay here just a second. And I know that there are people out here watching this recording of this ceremony. If you are a veteran, please know that we bless you as well. We thank you for your service, for your love, and for all that you give to life. And I would like to now ask anyone who is sitting out here who has been part of a military family to please stand, because no one in service can do it alone. No one can do it by themselves. So thank you all for your good work of loving those who are in service or are in service. Thank you for the blessing that you are. And you may be seated. Let's acknowledge these people that are standing here. Thank you. A day will come when we'll all recognize how inappropriate, how ineffective, and how barbaric this thing called war is. Obviously, we haven't gotten there as a species yet, but that potential is real. Will it happen in our lifetime? I don't know. But I know that we as a human species are moving toward something greater, something more glorious, where we can actually know who we are and live from that wisdom and that knowledge. Yes. So thank you, warriors, until that time comes, for standing up and for doing the good work that needs to be done. And I speak to those who, all of us who have that inner spiritual warrior, we all have work to do. Don't ever give up. Bring your best to everything that you do, and allow life to see you for who you really are, because you're amazing. I love you very much. Thank you.